Hello, my name is Anniken. I design knitting patterns. I teach knitting workshops online and in person, and I sell yarn through my website yarnaddict.co.uk. Welcome to today's video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. Today I'm going to talk about knitting notions, knitting tools, knitting needles, and basically what I use and how I store it. So I do have a quite comprehensive video on knitting needles. I've done a video on how and why you want to consider using circular needles, and then I've done various review videos on some of the knitting needle brands that I've tried, including Knit Pro, which is known as Knitter's Pride in the US, Lykke. Some people pronounce that Likey, but it's pronounced Lykke because it's a Norwegian word. Chaugu. Which other ones have I done? The Knit Pro, Lykke, Chaugu. Oh, the Knit Pro Mindful Collection, and one more, which I can't remember now, but I'll link that playlist below so you can check that out if you want to. But I'm mainly today going to talk about what knitting notions and knitting tools I use and how I store them. I like to think that I've pared down my kit to kind of the essentials, because I quite often say that I keep all my knitting tools in this tiny little box, but that's not completely true. So let's go through what I'm using and how I'm storing it and that kind of thing. First, I'm going to show you this one. So this is the bag I use to keep all my knitting tools in. I use this bag still for knitting tools, but I use it for things that I take to workshops. So this is the bag that goes with me to workshops, and it has this case, which is very old now. It was from Simply Knitting, where I keep sewing needles, and then I have a case of stitch markers. I have some scissors in here, and I have some pencils, some of these clips which are very useful for sewing up. Just various things that I think I might need in my classes are kept in here. So the day-to-day stuff that I use is kept in this one, and this one. Let's start with this one first because that's the smallest one. This lives in my handbag. Depends a bit on what handbag I'm using. If I'm using a tiny one, I have a lot of fairly small crossbody bags. If I'm taking a bag that size, I don't take this with me, but it tends to live in my larger handbag. So normally I have like a slightly larger handbag and a small crossbody bag kind of in use, and I alternate between the two. So this will then live in the larger one. This tin was from a company called The Sexy Knitter. I think she's called Sarah, and she's American. I don't know whether she's still running her company, but she used to make these knitting tins, and she did a sort of series of, I don't know, 5 tins or something, where she used my photographs. So that's the photograph of one of my designs. It's got a bit of water damage here. So she sold these kits with a few tools. I've added to those tools, but it came with a tape measure, so I've still got tape measure in here. I've got some sewing needles in here. These are the ones that I like from, I think these are Clover. Knit Pro do some similar ones. I got some of these, which are basically blocking pins, but I use those. They also come with the Chaugu interchangeable needle sets, and I use those to do up my interchangeable needles. I got some tiny scissors in here. I have a lot of scissors, and I like these tiny ones. These are about the smallest ones I've got. I take this kit with me when I fly, and these are small enough, way small enough to go on the plane. I think they can be like, the blades can be like 6 centimeters or something on the plane. And I got these little snips. I think they're from Higher. I don't actually find them that good. I don't find them that sharp, but I do keep them in there because then I think, well, if they do take my scissors away on the plane, I've got some in there. And then I've got a little tiny crochet hook, double-ended, that originally came with this tin when I first got it. I've got some stitch markers. I got this one, which has like a, I don't know what this is called, but like one you can open and close. I use that as a progress marker. That's supposed to be our dog Alfie. And then I got some other stitch markers. It's got like a metal, like a magnetic thing here for stitch markers to stick to, because these are metal ones. I got some of the like bulb pin stitch markers, bulb stitch markers, and some ring ones. I like these tiny ring ones from Coconuts, I think they're from. And then I've also got some slightly bigger ones. Hang on, let me if I can get one out. This has gotten caught in one of my blocking pins. I also like these ones which have like a bead on them. I get a lot of the ones I've got from Atomic Knitting. I've also got some from, I think, Little Grey Girl and possibly one or two other companies, but I can't remember. This is the needle tightening tool that came with my Knit Pro Mindful Collection needles, and these are the end stoppers that came with the Knit Pro Mindful Collection needles. So yeah, just quite a few different stitch markers and things like that in here. Sewing needle, scissors, tape measure, things that I might need when I'm out and about. I also sometimes keep a piece of waste yarn for afterthought heels in here, and I noticed there's not one in there at the moment, so I could do with putting one of those in there. In fact, I'm going to do that while I think about it. So let me just take this out. So in my other Knitting Notions kit, in this one I got on Etsy, but I can't remember who from, and I've lost my original Etsy account, locked myself out of it, and accidentally set up a new one. And this one has like a bigger space here and then four smaller compartments there, and it's very, very useful. So this is what I use to put in the afterthought heel, or the waist yarn for the afterthought heel. It's called a ravel cord, I think. It's something that machine knitters use a lot, and I have some of these. I cut one into shorter lengths that are just the right length for afterthought heel, so I'm going to pop one of these in here, because when I was out recently and I had to put in the yarn for an afterthought heel, I didn't have one, and that was a little bit frustrating. So in this one, let's have a look and see what's in here. So on this side at the bottom there, I have a needle gauge, just to see what size needles I have if I need to check them. I got some scissors in here. I have sewing needles. This is the same one I had before, except this is from Knit Pro. I like this big loopy bit, makes it easier to thread the needle. It isn't very good for sewing on buttons. This is something that I mainly bought because it's pretty and cute. It's an owl, but it does have holes in it for certain needle sizes. It only has a few needle sizes. I'm not sure actually whether they're millimeter or American. Hang on, which way around do they go? 2.5, 2, 3, 3.25. They're probably millimeter. And then I got these things. They are from ChowGoo. They're basically two, like these rubbery things, and the idea is so you put your knitting needle tip between there, then you can use them to tighten and untighten your knitting needles. Don't use those a lot, but I do have them. I got one of these row counter rings from Knit Pro, which I must admit I don't use very often. It's a little bit small for me. It doesn't really fit on, it fits on my little finger, but that's it. I think they do a larger size now, and they also do rainbow ones, so I might see if I can get a new one, because that's quite useful. These are my end stoppers for my ChowGoo needles. And then I've got another one of those double-ended crochet hooks. I find this very useful. I have one of these tools, which is a needle threader. So if I do use smaller needles that I can't thread very easily, rather than these, then I basically put that through the hole in the needle or the eye in the needle, put the yarn through here, and then pull it back through the eye of the needle. And then I got another one of those needles. This one's got a really big loop. Can you see that? It's a bit big, so I don't use that one very often. I've got another big eye sewing needle, and then I got one which is slightly smaller, And then I think I've got one that's even smaller. Oh yes, I do. I've got one that's even smaller. These smaller ones I mainly use for putting attaching buttonholes. And then I have several tools. This is a Knit Pro one, and then I have several of these kind of blocking pin type tools that Gu come with. They're also just blocking pins. I have several of those in here to tighten needles. I'm not going to take my needle gauge out because it's kind of stuck in the bottom there, but it's basically a needle gauge. It's from a Norwegian yarn company called Sandnes Garn, and it's just the perfect size for fitting in here. I don't use it very often, which is why it's in the bottom. Oh, then I have this one, which I don't think I've ever used because I can't remember how to use it. It's supposed to count rows. I can't remember how to use it, and I can't remember where I got it from. I think you move something to count rows, but I've no idea how it works. I've never used it. So I'll show you what I use to count rows in a minute. So I'm just going to pop all my stuff back in here quickly so I don't lose it. Again, another pair of scissors. I do have a bit of a soft spot for pretty scissors, as in I actually collect them. I'm just keeping an eye on my laptop because I'm saving or exporting a video at the moment, and it's pretty close to being done. And then in here, there is just like an overflow for some stitch markers, and that's also where I kept that ravel cord that I used for Afterthought heels. So that was in there. Then this is where most of my bulb stitch markers are. I like these metal ones. I think they were from, I think I got most of mine from Coconuts. I think other brands do them as well now. And then in here I've got other stitch markers, some like random ones, some bigger ones. I have some of these pretty beaded ones. I have this one, which is from Corner Craft, which I got a YarnAddict last year. It's a cloudberry. I really like that. And then I've got a few of these, which are from Orchid Luxury Yarns, which came with my advent calendar. I've got some other bigger ones, different shapes, some slightly bigger stitch markers in here that I might use if I'm using bigger needles, which I don't use bigger needles very often. And this is my main stitch markers, so I'm a bit worried about tipping these over, but they are little colourful ones. Most of them are like this from Coconuts. Then I got some bigger ones with the bead on from various companies. I think most of them are from Atomic Knitting. Then I got some these kind of rubbery ones, which I don't use very often. So I prefer to use just ring stitch markers, plain ring ones. I don't like beaded fancy handmade ones. I do have some. I have this on my desk. Oh, it's not actually on my desk, I've got a shelf above my desk. I put all the stitch markers I got with one of my advent calendars in here. One of the advent calendars I got last year was from Orchid Luxury Yarns, and Abby did stitch markers every single day. I can't remember that these were from Abby, but I think they were. They're like crystal-y ones. There are some just like ring ones. Some of these have stones on them that you can put essential oils on, like this one has got a lava stone. That grey stone in the middle is a lava stone. Some of these have like a solid ring at the top. Some have these are they called lobster claws? I don't know. You can take them, attach them into the fabric. Just got a variety of ones here. These were all from my advent calendar last Christmas. They're very pretty. I don't tend to use them. I don't tend to use dangly stitch markers and handmade stitch markers a lot. My top tip when it comes to stitch markers would be to make sure the ring is solid. If there's a gap in the ring that you actually put on your needle, your yarn will go through that gap and it'll just get annoying. I also got these, which I got recently. I got 2 packs of these recently from, who did I get? Oh, this is from Atomic Knitting, I think. And these are basically, you put, let me just grab some knitting needles. These are some of the few straight needles I got that I never use. You can basically put these on your end of your needles, and it stops your stitches from falling off, and it holds your needles together. So that would be useful to use as a kind of sorting tool to keep your knitting needles together in pairs. I got those fairly recently, so I've not used them a lot yet, but I do like them. I just found a stitch marker I hadn't put back, so I'm just going to pop that back quickly so I don't forget and lose it. So that's what's in there, and in my little pot, which stays on my desk, so I'm going to pop that back up there. And then we have this little thing, which this came with, I think it was the thing that my daughter bought from Puster in Norway. They are no longer trading. They used to make project bags. And my daughter bought a rucksack and a project bag, I think, from them for her embroidery. And I think it came with this one, but she didn't want that, so she gave this one to me. So in here are some of the bigger things that can't fit in here. And so let's see what we got in here. First, I got some of these, which are these stitch holder cords. So let me grab my knitting needle again. You basically, they're hollows. You stick them on top of your knitting needle, and then you can pull the stitches on from your knitting needle onto these cords. So if you want to try stuff on, or you want to just hold it, like I quite often will knit to the shoulders and then put those on hold, and then I will knit the front, and then I'll join the shoulders using a 3-needle cast off. So these are quite useful. One of my sample knitters has some of these as well, so she will quite often now, instead of putting stuff on a waist yarn, when she sends it back to me, she'll put it on one of these, and then I hang it on my wall next to her address, and next time I send her some yarn, I just send them back. So I got a big bag of these when I was in Norway. In fact, I've got them twice now. They're from Sandnes Garn, I think, which is a Norwegian yarn company. I do have some other ones which I bought from Beautiful Knitters in London. I think quite a few indie dyes in the UK are selling these at the moment, but these were from Beautiful Knitters in London. I got them last year. So I've added some more to this box. So this, I can just show you what this originally came with, because I put some extra stuff in there. So this came with a long stitch cord, and then it came with, I think, 2 of slightly short ones, and then it came with, I think it was 2 each of these. So these are basically, if you put the stitches, imagine this is full of stitches on hold, and then to make sure they don't fall off, you can just tie them together, but you can put them through here like that, and then so imagine your stitches are sitting here and you've just poked them through here and they stay secure. So they're quite useful. So I use these a lot. They're very, very useful, especially if you want to try stuff on, or you want to measure things and you have to take them off your knitting needle and things like that. I got some extra ones of those things from Atomic Knitting. I will link her below, and then I'm just keeping some extra cords and things from the set I got in Norway in here as well. It's probably a little bit full, this box. In fact, I think some of these cords are actually in that pouch, and now I'm trying to shove them into here and it's not working. So let's just see if we can get all these. There we go. Managed to close it. This is quite a big size 10. I've seen quite a few indie dyes do these now. I think most of them come with like 1 cord or something. So if you go to a knitting show or something, you might find them. And then in this pouch, I keep a tin of some random stitch markers. These are just various random ones that I've been had over the years. Some pretty like laser cut ones, can't really see those, but just a variety of different stitch markers, spare ones that I don't use very often. I have some other stitch holders. I think I'm going to actually put these in my workshop kit, because I never use these anymore. I just use, when I put stuff on hold, it's mainly for the shoulders. I used to just leave them on the cord of my interchangeable needles and put the end stoppers on, but now I put them on those stitch holder cords and they're much better. I have this one, which is a needle gauge from Coconuts, and you find guess they have the size on them. I must admit, I don't think I've ever used these. So it has the size printed on here, and then you just take one out. So say I'm looking for, I don't know, what size are these? 3.25mm needles. I pull out the one with 3.25, poke my needle through there, that hole, to see if it's big enough. I got these because I thought they were a bit fun. I haven't really used them. Mainly because they don't fit in this kit, and that's what I tend to use the most. I got a tape measure in here. I got another tape measure downstairs. I got some tape measures in the corner of my desk here. I've got tape measures all over the place. I have some of these, which I love. They're really hard to find. They kind of have like one claw like that. I think the ones I've got are from a company called Susan Bates, which I think is an American company, but they're really hard to get in the UK. I have some in my workshop bag. I have some in here. They used to sell them at Loop in London, Loop Knitting in London, but I don't know whether they still do. Last time I looked, I couldn't find them. So if you know where they sell those in the UK, do drop me a link. Actually, if you drop a link, YouTube might hide the comment, so just leave a comment with the name of the business. I have some spare ones of these. These are my favorite row counters. They're from Clover. You can lock them, and then they got these wheels on the side they use to reset them. I have one of these basically in every single project, and then I have some spare ones, and if I run out of those, then I know I've got too many projects on the go. Then I got a little tin. This is one from Little Grey Girl, which originally had stitch markers in them. But I've kept the tin in case I want to use it for stitch markers. Then I got this thing, which I like a key ring, which I guess I bought at a show. I'm not sure where it's from, but it basically has the instructions for Kitchener stitch. I prefer to use the word grafting these days. There are some reasons I'm not going to go into here, why a lot of people prefer not to use the word Kitchener. I'm not going to go into that here, but basically Lord Kitchener, the Kitchener stitch was not named after him. He didn't invent it, from what I understand, and he was not a very nice man. So I bought this a few years ago. I don't really need it because I have memorized how to do Kitchener stitch crafting many years ago, but I guess I saw this at a show or something. I thought it was fun, so I got that. I got another one of those double-ended crochet hooks. I really like those for picking up stitches. I have a couple of end stoppers for my Chargu needles. I have this one, which I got from an American shop. It's basically like a leather cord which clips together. I have a eraser, or rubber as we call it in the UK. I know that means something else in the US. So an eraser from, oh, what are they called? Hurdy, I think they're called. So that's what that looks like. And then I have a little tiny torch. I think this is one my dad gave me. Oh yeah, this is the company that my dad used to work for, Nippon Paint. It looks like the light bulb is gone, so you might need new batteries or something. But yeah, it needs a new battery, I think. So I might keep that out to change battery. I don't know why I keep that in there. I guess it's just useful in case I need it. I'm going to keep that out and change the battery. So that's what's in this pouch. So let me just pop all that back in. This normally stays, I have a basket where I keep notions and needles and things next to the chair where I sit and knit in the lounge. So that normally stays there. This I normally carry around with me. So if I'm teaching, I normally chuck that in my workshop bag. If I'm traveling, I normally take that with me. If I'm traveling hand luggage only, I will sometimes just take that with me because it's a bit smaller. If I'm traveling, what I tend to do is I have some of these pouches, which you'll see more of in a minute. These are from Kiko. I thought Kiko had closed all their UK shops, but there's one in London, but you can buy them online, I think. I bought some of them in Spain because Spain has quite a lot of Kiko shops. In here, when I go on holiday, I put anything I need in here. So I'll pop that in there. I'll pop my scales. So these are another thing that I recommend you have. Little tiny scales that you can find them easily on Amazon. No idea what people need small scales for that weighs really tiny amounts, but there's loads of them on Amazon. I have one in my drawer next to my desk, and I have one which I keep downstairs, and when I travel I pop those in here with that case normally. And then I also put anything in here, like if I'm doing anything with beads, I'll add a crochet hook. I have one of these stitch cords in here, a spare fastener thing. I have some pens in here. I'll usually just whatever needles and notions I need to take with me on holiday, I'll pop in here. So that fits in there. This fits in here. Then I'll pop in any needle tips and needle cords in here with some pens, and that'll just go in my suitcase. So I do like this, and I keep it just ready so that when I travel I can just pop what I need in there and pop it in my suitcase. And then my main kind of needle storage is this case. So this case, the actual outer case, is from Rituals, which is a skincare company, and I got it as a freebie. And I thought I would use it as like a travel case to put my toiletries in to take it through airport security, but it's a bit big for that. It's bigger than, probably nearly twice as big as the limit here in the UK, at least. They're quite strict at that at most UK airports. But I was looking for a new solution last year to store my needles, so I found this in my drawer, so I thought that would be perfect. I have a needle gauge. This is a Chow one that has US and millimeter sizes on it, and it's also got like measuring things, centimeters and inches, so I keep that in there. My main Chow needle set is in here. I tried to take everything out of here and washed it because it's a bit discolored, but it didn't get any cleaner. So I used to keep all my cords in here. There's still some in here, but they're mostly shorter ones and the ones that fit the bigger needles. Chow have different cords for the bigger size needles, so like from things 5.5mm upwards, and different cords for the smaller needles, and then they got some really thin cords for the really tiny needles. I bought this set years ago and I've added to it a lot over the years. So in here I've got another needle gauge. This is the one I like the most. I don't know who does this one, but a lot of yarn shops will sell this one. It's got millimeter, US and the old British Imperial sizes. It's got centimeters, inches. I have one of those in my workshop bag as well, I think. I think most yarn shops in the UK sell them. Another set of those Chow whatever these are called, rubber things to tighten your needles with. And then in here, on the side here, I've got loads of needle tightening tools stuck in. And then I have, these are all my Chow needle tips. So let me see if I can do that without it falling out. I've taken out some of my biggest size ones. They used to be in here. I keep those in a separate bag downstairs because I rarely use them. I have one pair of Chow wooden ones, which I bought just to try them. Wasn't a huge fan. I prefer the metal ones. And then I have all the ones that I use the most here. I have multiples of most sizes. And that's why I had to find a different needle storage solution, because this kit just got so big. I used to keep all my like fixed circulars. This is one I use for socks in the middle here. So you open it and it was just all falling out and it was a mess. So I decided to come up with a new storage solution last year, and I've been using that since. That's when I started using this. So in here I have these bags. Most of these are from Kiko. That one is not from Kiko, I don't think. I don't know where this one's from. Let's have a look. It says it inside here. I think there's a label. What does the label say? Oh, that's from H&M. So this black bag is from H&M. I like the fact that it's mesh and you can see through it. So these are all my fixed circulars. So we've got some higher in here. We got some Knit Pro. We got loads of Chow fixed circular ones that I bought before I bought my interchangeable set. And we got, does I Knit Pro? There's a variety of fixed circulars in there. So that I just keep. These I used to keep in the center here, and it just got very messy and they would fall out every time I opened it, and it just got a bit frustrating. So those go in here. Actually, I've just noticed I've got another needle gauge in here. So I've got like 3 needle gauges in total in here. Where's this one from? It costs £1.20. Don't know where it's from. Those are needle gauges. You can never have too many of those. Then in this one I keep all my liquor needles. So I used to keep the liquor needle tips in here with my chow goose, but I decided to put them all in here. So I have some needle tips in here that are just on their own, and I've got some needle tips that are attached to the interchangeable cables. I can get them. These are interchangeable ones, but they're attached to the cable. Then I got some interchangeable cables that are just on their own. I thought if I kept all my liquor stuff together, liquor is quite often, I hear people pronounce it likey. It is pronounced liquor. I have a review video on them. Really like them. I don't use them a lot because they're a little bit blunt for my taste, but I do like them. So I keep them all in a separate bag. Because I don't have that many of them, it's easy to keep them all in there, and then I can find them when I do want them. And then I have some of these. I actually thought I had another one of these, but I was trying to, one of the problems I was having when I was keeping all my cables in here was that I had so many of them, I could never find the length I wanted. So I'd end up pulling them all out and going through them all to try and find the length I wanted. And that just became very tedious. So now I try and keep like the shorter ones in here, like I want to say less than 80 centimeters or 100 centimeters, shorter than that. I have some very short ones that I never use in here. So I think that's the ones that make like the 40 centimeter long needles, maybe even shorter, I'm not sure. I never use those because they're too short. So I keep shorter cables in here. Just pop that back in the bag, and then I keep some longer cables in here. So if I need a shorter cable or a longer cable, I can just look it up and find it without going through all my cables, because that's what I was doing. And then this stays in here as well, and I can fit this all in here. This will fit in here, and this tin will fit in here, and then I can just zip it up. And this bag, outside bag, I like the fact that it's see-through, so I can see what's in there. And it's quite good quality, but it was free. It came, I bought a set from Rituals. I think I bought it when I was in Spain once, and it came with some skincare stuff and then this bag. And I like the bag, but I didn't really use it, so now I found something to use it for. So that is my needle set, and that's the only needles I use. I do have some straight needles that I used to use for workshops, some long straight needles. They are somewhere on the shelf behind me, I'm not quite sure where. I also have a needle set for my workshops, which live in this bag, which I made myself quite a few years ago. It's a project bag I made, but I wasn't that happy with it. And in here I have loads of needles. I have some name labels that I use for workshops. I have a little thing of cable needles for workshops. I have some more needles and some straight needles for workshops, and some washi tape in case people are struggling to read charts. I have some another needle gauge and some shorter needles for workshops. Basically, like all my workshop needles are in here. Let me just put all this back in here. So when I'm teaching, I also have a couple other needle sets that I don't use for workshops very often. I have some smaller ones, like 3.25 and 2.5. And then also in here is this little pouch where I keep loads of scissors. So I did think I maybe mentioned earlier that I kind of collect scissors. So I used to keep them in like a box in my office to use for like photographs and things, but sometimes I need them for workshops, especially when I'm teaching steeking. Then I'm worried I'm going to forget to bring them. So a few years ago I popped them all in this little pouch, and now I just keep them in my needle case for my workshops, so I don't have to worry about whether to bring them or not. They're just always in here, so if somebody needs some needles in a workshop, or we're doing steeking and we need some needles, they're all in here. I decided when I started teaching a lot that it was easier to keep my workshop needles and notions separately from my personal ones, just because then I knew where everything was. Then I have this little bowl in my office on the shelf. You see that white thing that's just sticking out there? In there I got a spare one of those needle threaders because I bought a set of 2. I've got a spare one. I don't know why I've got 2 of this one. But I got 2 of this coconut needle gauge thing. I've actually still got it in this box. I don't know why I ended up with 2. I think maybe I bought it and forgot I already had one or something. But I think I kept it in there because I was thinking if I want to do a giveaway or something, I could include that. Then I got a couple of things that I actually bought in Norway. I think it's was it last time I went to Norway or the time before? I'm not sure, but I'm not quite sure what to do with these. So this one says, it's a yarn ball that says 1 more round, but it has like this kind of attachment, so I'm not sure what to attach it to really. I guess you could use a stitch markers. That one's got a little sheep on it. So I'm not quite sure what to use them for, so I just keep them in this little bag in here. I also got another one which I also got in Norway, which says, what does that one say? Knitting Queen. And again, it has that kind of loop at the top. Hang on, can't see what it says. Loop at the top, so I'm not quite sure what to use it for. That one comes in like a nice organza bag. So I'm going to put these other 2 in here with that. So we got this in a little organza bag together. They're a bit big to use for stitch markers, I think, so I don't use them for that. I got 2 tape measures in here, and I got some spare scissors. This is a cockerel, and these are the Knit Pro rainbow ones. I think they're from the interchangeable collection, and you can pop them down like that. These are also small enough to take on the flight, on a plane, and if you put them in like that, then they look less threatening, I guess. They are a little bit stiff. That would be my only complaint. They're very sharp though, so they do cut very well. Another pair of scissors and a large button. I have another one of these downstairs. I mainly use it if I do like a flat lay for Instagram. A couple of erasers, or rubbers as we call them in the UK. These are also from Herdy. Tipex, that's not really anything to do with knitting. Another kind of stitch marker set from Orchidean Luxury Yarns. And another needle gauge. And another tiny little crochet hook. This is a wooden one. Oh, and another metal crochet hook. Keep that on the shelf in my office. So those are all my knitting needles, tools, knitting notions. I also have loads of crochet hooks. I'm not sure where they are. I have a kit here which I use for teaching, which has crochet hooks for teaching and beads and stuff for teaching. But I have some personal ones which I think I keep downstairs separately, in like a jar mug type thing. So what I would say is the most essential out of those tools are my stitch markers. I like just the plain round coconut ones. They're quite small. I think they come in a larger size as well. I also like those padlock stitch markers or bulb stitch markers. They're really useful. I like the stitch holder cord ones. They become essential to me very, very quickly. And I love these double-ended crochet hooks. They are perfect for picking up stitches. You can just use the normal crochet hook like a normal size one, but I really like the double-ended ones. Those are kind of the most essential tools that I can't live without. And obviously my clover green row counters and tape measures. And I do recommend you have more than one tape measure, and I clearly also recommend that you have more than one needle gauge. Some needles rub out on the side where the number is, some of them will rub off, some of them are a bit difficult to see. I find the Chagoo ones, especially in certain lights, are difficult to see. So you can never have enough needle gauges, tape measures, row counters, or needle stitch holder cords. Those are the ones I like the most. So those are a few of my knitting tools and notions. Let me know what you've got. Have you got any of those things? Are there any other things you have that you find is essential? Share with me in the comments below. Have you got some thoughts about what you might want to look out for next time you go to a knitting festival, maybe? I think when you go to knitting festivals or yarn shops and you don't really want to buy yarn because you're worried about the size of your stash, buy knitting notions and tools and things like that, or project bags are quite a good idea because you feel like you've treated yourself to something, but you're not adding to your yarn stash. And especially some of these knitting notions like stitch markers and things are quite small. They don't cost a huge amount of money. Well, some of them do, but some of them don't. So they're a bit easier to buy, feeling like you're treating yourself without spending a lot of money. Do think about, especially when it comes to stitch markers, what kind of stitch markers you actually use and what you find looks pretty but you probably won't use. Like, I know I rarely use handmade ones. I just use my little tiny ring markers, and I use a lot of these padlock markers for marking where I am. So this is my socks in progress. I use these for marking where I am and things like that, and that's about all I use them for. They're also really good if you drop a stitch to attach them, to kind of catch the stitch while you work out how you're going to fix it or find the right tools for fixing it. So those are my tools and what I like to use. So do tell me what you like to use, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.